Hello, hello, welcome to the show. Welcome to Not Just Nintendo, a video game podcast that is focused on Nintendo, but it's not just Nintendo, hence the name. I'm George, or the Ginger Ninja online. I am the host. Also, I'm the only person on this podcast, so hi. Uh, anyways, so this is the first real episode, other than that little like pilot episode, sort of episode zero introductory episode that I did last time. Other than that, like 10-minute thing, I don't think you can really count that, can you? This is the first show. So that's pretty cool. As I mentioned on that introductory thing, I'm this show is going to be focused on me talking about the games that I've played this so far this year in 2025. And I should clarify that technically they're not all in 2025 because the first three aren't. Because I start counting games for a year after Christmas, or really on Christmas. I start counting because I have the YouTube video that goes out on Christmas. That's like a ranking of all the games I played, and you can go watch the 2024 one. I thought it was a really good video, so you can go watch that. That's cool. But anyways, because I do that video, anything I beat after that in the year would be lost unless I do it this way, which is how what I have like those three games that I beat after Christmas on the 2025 list. So that's what we're doing. And I'll talk about all 8 games that I played in 2025. A few of them technically again not in 2025, but basically, right? That I've played since Christmas, we'll say. And that'll be this episode. That's probably all we're going to talk about this episode because I like to yap. And then next episode, I'll come in with stuff I've played since then. So maybe I'll probably have beaten another thing at least by next episode. And then I'll also talk about stuff I've been playing that I'm like partway through since I beat the last game, which was on February 4th. And that'll be next time. And also, I might get into some like news. There's a lot of news, obviously, with the Switch 2 and stuff here soon. So there's a lot of news about that. I'll probably talk about a little bit of that stuff. But I think episode 3 will be a full on like talking about the Switch 2, maybe about 3D Mario. We'll see. Of course, if you have any topics you want me to talk about, you can always email. The email is at notjustnintendo, all one word, NOTJUSTNINTENDO at gmail.com. So you can email there. Haven't got any emails yet. I didn't expect to, honestly. I didn't expect that the like episode 0 thing would get any traction. Not that I expect even this to get much traction, but if it does, that would be great. Also, if you have any listener like things you want me to talk about or questions or any sort of comments on anything I've said, you can also put them in the YouTube comments if you're watching this on YouTube. So I imagine that's probably where the majority of people are. That's at least where the majority of people were for the episode 0 that I did. You can leave them on YouTube. And I was looking on Spotify for creators or podcasters, or whatever the place is called now. I don't know. It used to be Anchor. I was looking on there, and I saw that they had a comment section, which is strange because every time I've listened to a podcast on Spotify, I haven't noticed that I could leave a comment. So I'm not entirely sure how you do that, but I guess if you want to leave a comment on Spotify, I can check those, and so you can do it that way too. So you can either email or you leave it in the YouTube comments if you're there, or you can leave it in the Spotify comments if you're there. But 100% I'll check the YouTube comments and the Gmail, so I would probably recommend those. But if you're on Spotify, I'll try to keep up to date on the comments as long as I don't forget, because I can be kind of forgetful. Speaking of Spotify and YouTube and all that stuff, you can actually watch this podcast now. I've been going around trying to get it on as many places as possible. I guess not watch, listen to. But anyways, of course, it's on YouTube. That's probably where most people are. It's on Spotify. I saw we actually got a few streams on Spotify already, which I was pretty happy about. It's on Amazon Music apparently. I I don't know. I don't know if I confirmed that one or not, but it says it's on there. Actually, no, I did see it. I did see it. I just didn't listen to it on there, so it's there. Podcast Index, I listened to it on there. I don't actually know what that is. I have no idea. I've never used that before, but it was one of the ones that they could auto port it to. Listen Notes as well. It's on RSS, of course. It's not on Apple Podcast yet. That's like the big one that I haven't done. That one, it seems like a mess to try to get something on Apple Podcasts without an Apple account, and it seems like a mess to make an Apple account without having an iPhone. So I don't know. I'll probably figure it out eventually, but I haven't figured it out yet. Then, of course, it's on Pandora and on Stitcher. Stitcher, I think, is going away like this year, so I guess it's not really relevant, but it's on there for now. And then it's on iHeartRadio, which is weird, but it was one of the ones I could get easily, so I was like, okay. It's on Deezer. Now, Deezer, every time I try to play it on Deezer, it gives me an error but I'm not logged in, so I'm not sure if you have to be logged in. I should probably check on that. But if you're on Deezer and you can play the podcast, I don't know if anybody is, but if you're on Deezer, let me know and see if tell me if it's working. So yes, Deezer. And then the other one, the other big one is on Podbean. Podbean was kind of a mess to get it on there, but I figured it out. So you can listen on Podbean as well. So you can listen pretty much everywhere, honestly, is what I should have said. You can listen pretty much everywhere except for Apple Podcasts. That's kind of the one that I haven't figured out. And I'm sure I will at some point, but I just haven't yet. We didn't get any emails, but we did get a couple comments on YouTube. Nunya Bindis 1980 says that gave a timestamp for when I was plugging my YouTube channel and said, and it's not the furry one. And that's an important distinction because, yes, if you look up my YouTube channel, it is the THE space GINJANINJA, one word. That's my YouTube channel where I do video game stuff. If you look that up, you might actually get like some weird like artist, like she does like some weird furry stuff. I don't know. It's weird. Don't go to that one. That's the wrong one. It's like usually the second result, and it has like an Animal Crossing villager. It's the one with like 500 subscribers instead of like a million. So go to that one. So yes, thank you for the important distinction. And then the other comment, it was from Boggle and Lever 49. I know him in real life. He says, please play the entire Metal Gear series. I'm not sure if this was being serious or if this was a joke because there was a bit of a YouTube drama with this guy who was talking about Metal Gear. So I'm not sure if he was being serious here. But if you are being serious, as far as playing the entire Metal Gear series, I'm assuming you mean like all of the like the old ones too on NES and stuff. As far as that, I don't think there's like really been much of a more recent way to play those. I could be mistaken. I don't think there's been any sort of like collection or anything. I guess I can check on that for next time. So I would have to actually play them on NES or emulate. I'm not big on emulation, so I'd have to play them on NES. I guess I could do that, but they're not like high on my list to play because I have to actually go find the carts and stuff. As far as the Metal Gear Solid series, that one I would be more apt to play. Still not very high on my list. I have a lot of stuff I've been playing. I have a lot of stuff still to play. I own a lot of video games, and there's a lot that are like fairly easy to find and decently cheap and stuff. So they're not high on my list, but I might at some point play some Metal Gear. We'll see. So thank you for the suggestion. And that was all the comments and stuff we got. We didn't really get much. And again, you can. I shouldn't reiterate. I already said 1,000 times where you can do it. So, anyways, okay, let's get into it. All right, everybody, welcome back. Here we are for the segment where I will discuss all of the games that I beat so far in 2025. Now, like I mentioned last time, there's a few that were before the end of the year, but after Christmas that I've counted on this list. And the funny thing is I actually recorded that first little introduction like this morning, and I'm recording this now in the evening time, and I've actually beaten 2 new games because I didn't have anything to do today. So that's actually kind of funny. But I'm not going to talk about those games here today. I'm instead going to save those for next episode. I think that's kind of a good idea so that we have stuff to talk about next episode. But we still have 8 games to talk about in this episode, so let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it. So, on December 25th last year, I know I'm saying 2025, but it was last year, I played Astro's Playroom, and it was just on that day. I did it basically in one sitting. I guess it kind of depends on what you consider a sitting, because I did get up and got some water like halfway through. But I played all 3 hours of this game in a row, basically, on my new PS5, because I had just gotten a PS5 for Christmas, and I beat it day one, because honestly, it's actually kind of funny. The reasons why I wanted a PS5, I wanted to play some third-party stuff, which I could already on Xbox. But there's a lot of reasons why I'm not like such a fan of Xbox. And honestly, I could probably get into that in its own episode or whatever. If you guys want to speed up me talking about why I don't like Xbox, you can email if you want. Otherwise, I'll talk about it at some point, I'm sure. But it doesn't feel like the kind of topic to talk about right now. But anyways, I was like, you know what? I can play the third-party stuff on PlayStation. Then I don't really have to play them on Xbox all as often. And of course, there's a lot of things that don't come to Switch, or they come out half broken or because the developers don't like to spend much time actually, developing them for Switch. Um, it is interesting though, like when there's a game that's actually well, like polished and well, when it's built for Switch, right? Not even necessarily primarily, but when they build a version intended for Switch and they don't just like throw out a version from Xbox or PlayStation onto Switch, like in the case of like Prince of Persia, right? Everybody talked about how great the Prince of Persia ran on Switch. Now, of course, I didn't play it. I probably will at some point, but I didn't play it. But that game, they built a full Switch version. They didn't like just port it over. They actually took the time and built a Switch version. So, anyways, I don't know why I'm going off on this side tangent, but that was one reason why I wanted a PS5. But the other reason I wanted a PS5, I wanted to play some of the Sony games, specifically the Spider-Man games and Astro's Playroom and Astrobot, which is funny because I think most people would probably say it was for God of War or for the Horizon series or The Last of Us or something like that. Maybe even Uncharted on PS4 games. But for me, it was mainly Astrobot and Spider-Man, and I did want to play those other things as well, but I mostly wanted it for Astrobot and Spider-Man. So of course, when I got it, Astro's Playroom was free. It's quick download, so I was like, all right, that's what we're doing today, and I played through the whole thing. I also played some Spider-Man that day, but I played through all of Astro's Playroom, and I've got to say, Astro's Playroom is phenomenal. It's one of those things. It's not like super obscure or anything. Of course, it's free on PS5. So there's like there's like 75 million people that have access to it. And I'm not, and maybe it was released on PS4. I'm not entirely sure. I could be mistaken on that. But it's not obscure by any means, but it's something weird because there's actually people that I know in real life that have a PS5 and have for years, and they've never played this game. And I'm like, why would you not do that? Like, it's a free game. It's fantastic. Why would you not play it? So if you're one of those people who has a PS5 and has not played Astro's Playroom, what is wrong with you? Go play Astro's Playroom. It's quite short and it's very fun. And you don't have to like go collect everything. I didn't. I collected most things, but you can. I mean, if you want to go collect all the cool little accessories and stuff. If you haven't played this game, I bet a lot of people have. So I'm kind of a broken record here. But basically, there's like four main worlds, and they're all like named after like different like there's like teraflop treetops or something, and there's like I don't know, GPU something. It's been a couple months here, so I'm not entirely like I can't remember exactly. I guess I could have done my research, but I'm not a very good podcaster. Anyways, so there's four different worlds, and in each world you get to the end and you get one of the PlayStation consoles. You get the PS1, 2, 3, 4. And I will say there's maybe one minor complaint. You can do the worlds in any order, which sounds good, and it is good, I guess. But I kind of wish I knew which PlayStation I was gonna get at the end of the world, because I think the first one I got was the PS3, and then I got the PS2, and then I got the PS1, and then I got the PS4. But I kind of wish I would have known what order they were going to be in, so I could have got them in order. I think it would have made the most sense that way. But I mean, it's not the end of the world. It's a pretty minor thing. It's definitely like one of the biggest nitpicks I have of this game because there's so few that I can have because it's such a great game. And of course, along the way, on your quest to get these four PlayStation consoles, there's like other little there's like the PlayStation 2 iToy, and there's controllers for all the consoles. There's memory cards for the first three, and there's I don't know there's a pair of headphones or there's the disc like a game case for one of them or something like that. Like those little trinkets and doodobs and doodob's the word. I don't think it's the word, but anyway, it doesn't matter. There's all those things just around in the level, and I didn't get all of those, but I did get quite a few. And it's really cool because when you pick up one in a level, you can like move the controller around, like physically move it because it has like the motion sensor inside the DualSense, and you can like examine it sort of. And I found it so cool, and you can zoom in and stuff. I found it so cool, at least when getting like certain collectibles. Like when I got the PlayStation 2 iToy, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so funny that they put this in here. Like they didn't need to put this in here, and they did, and it's awesome. So it's definitely a testament to PlayStation history, and obviously even more so in Astro Bot. But Astro's Playroom definitely focuses more on the hardware, whereas Astro Bot probably focuses more on the software, like the games and stuff. And I am like 6 hours into Astrobot. I was playing that honestly. I was focusing on PS5 games, and then I kind of moved back to Switch. I can only go like a month without playing a whole lot of Nintendo stuff. So I mean, I played a little bit during that time, but I guess that was my reasoning. So Astro's Playroom, fantastic. There was like in each of the worlds, there's like kind of a main gimmick besides just 3D platforming. There's like a gimmick that you come across, and they're like I think the first one. Are you like a monkey or you're in like an egg or something? I don't know. I think it's like you're in like some like thing with two legs. I know that sounds very vague, but basically you can like press the the shoulder buttons, and of course they're analog, the L2 and the R2, and you can like launch yourself opposite of the direction you're pushing. I don't know. It's an interesting concept. But that one was didn't really stick to me like some of the other ones did because the I think it's the second world that I went to. The main gimmick is you like turn into a monkey, or I think you go in a monkey suit. Yeah, that's right. Because I remember because you would get in the suit and then you'd have to like swipe up on the touchpad, which is another really cool thing this game does. And then you'd be in the suit, and in the monkey suit, there's like the little like they're shaped as bananas, but they're like the little like when you go to a rock wall and they have the little pegs and it's like you're climbing the wall. It's that kind of thing. But you have to like swing the controller because of the motion. You swing the controller and you grab like the pegs. And it sounds like it's like some just like shoehorned in like motion controls like you saw in some Wii games. But honestly, it's really well done. And so that gimmick was great. And then there was a third one that you like turn into a ball, and I imagine it's probably a lot like Monkey Ball, but I haven't played Monkey Ball. Although I guess in Monkey Ball you actually kind of move the stage around, and that's how the ball rolls. For me, the most like analogous thing, and I guess probably for the most people, this most similar thing would be like in Mario Galaxy and Galaxy 2 when you have the levels where there's like the star inside the big ball, and then you've got to like roll on the ball. So you hold the Wii remote vertically. You probably most of you guys probably know what I'm talking about. You hold the Wii remote vertically, and then you tilt it in the different directions, and then the ball rolls in those directions. And it actually can be kind of difficult to control sometimes, partially because the Wii remote it's not perfect in motion, although it's better than the Switch Joy Cons. But it's not perfect, so it can be hard to control. But it's kind of fun. They're fun levels. Except for this slide where you're on a ball in Galaxy 2, that is not fun. That is hard. Well, it's kind of fun, but it's also really hard. So back to Astrobot though. You do that, but you're not using motion, which I think they could have done that and it could have worked well. But you're not using the joystick either. You're actually using the touchpad, which is really cool. Like you move the ball by putting your finger on the touchpad. Like I actually set down the controller on my lap and I like moved around with a touchpad. It was kind of a cool experience. Honestly, I wouldn't mind if Team Asobi, those are the developers, if they made another Astro game where that's all you do is play with a ball, like where you're. I think they would probably, if they were to do that, they would do more like they did in Astro Bot with the ball levels, where Astro's actually on the ball instead of becoming the ball. Because if you're making a full game around a character, you probably want the character to be on screen most of the time. So I think Astro would probably be on top of the ball, but it doesn't matter. And then you could use the touchpad. Maybe this is a PS6 thing, maybe this is a PlayStation 5 thing, it doesn't matter. But maybe it's a free download or maybe it's a full standalone game. You could like move with a touchpad. It'd be like a monkey ball game basically, right? I think that'd be a really cool concept and I would totally buy it. I mean, I totally want anything Astrobot. The only thing is like I don't know when the PS6 comes out if I'll want that because there's a good chance it won't have a disc drive and I need a disc drive. I'm a physical collector, so if it doesn't have a disc drive, I might not buy it and I might just buy the PlayStation games on PC. We'll see. I don't know. I'm not set on that yet. But I mean, I guess if it's $1,000, I'm probably not buying it because I think it probably will be $1,000. But it'll at least be 800, I'm sure. But that's a whole nother topic. Back to Astrobot though. Everything about this game feels very Nintendo-y, and of course, as hence the name of the podcast. And if you know anything about me, I'm a very big Nintendo fan. I play mostly Nintendo stuff, and when I play other stuff, I'm usually like, I think of it like, oh, this is like this Nintendo game, or this is does something better or worse than this Nintendo game. I'm a very Nintendo-centric gamer, and I mean it's because I was raised that way, right? I played a lot of Nintendo games when I was younger and now I'm playing all sorts of things, but I'm still probably closest to home with Nintendo for sure. And I'm actually really impressed, and I was like thrilled with the PlayStation 5. It's like, oh my gosh, this is one of my favorite consoles ever. Just after playing Astro's Playroom, because I was like, man, it is so Nintendo, and all of the cool gimmicks that they put in the controller, all of the cool like gimmicky game design things that they did in Astro's Playroom, and now in Astro Bot. I'm beyond thrilled with Team Asobi and with Sony on that front. Of course, there are things that Sony does that I'm like not as happy with, but in general, honestly, I think Team Asobi might even be my favorite PlayStation studio. It's that Insomniac's cool too, but those are those are my favorites because Team Asobi, man. Obviously, the direct inspiration is Mario 64, or well, Mario 3D Mario in general. So I guess Mario 64 ultimately, and Mario 64 is my favorite game of all time, man. And I think the Astro's Playroom, Astro Bot, the platforming is fantastic. I do think Astro's Bot is a little bit better, but I haven't beaten that one yet, and we're talking about Playroom. So Playroom still does a lot of the same stuff, and I could say, you could say does some things better. I think I like the idea a lot of getting the four consoles and stuff through the years, but it makes more sense for Playroom to do that and for Astro Bot to focus on the characters because Astro Bot's the standalone game that came out halfway through a generation, whereas Playroom came out as like a almost like a launch title. Like it was a launch title, but it was almost a demo for the PS5. So it would make sense for them to be like, hey, here's our four PlayStations all lined up. Here's how we got to five. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Overall, Astrobot, phenomenal, man. I love love that game so much. Or Astro's Playroom, sorry. I love Astrobot as well, so I keep getting them confused. Because I mean they're quite similar. But I would definitely recommend you've got to play Playroom. It's free on PS5. And as far as Astrobot, I guess if you like Playroom, then play Bot. But if you don't like Playroom, I guess you don't have to play Astrobot. But I don't know what would be wrong with you if you must have like some condition if you don't like Astro's Playroom. This game it is pure joy playing that game, honestly. All right, well, like I said, I got the PS5 and I played a lot of Astro's Playroom. I played the whole game that day. And I also jumped into Marvel's Spider-Man, which was the second game I beat on PS5 and in general for the 2025 list, even though, again, was not in 2025. It was on December 30th, 2024. So just about. I actually beat the game itself on the 29th, but then I played all the DLC for it, like all three DLC packs, because it comes with it. So basically, I got the Miles Morales Spider-Man, the edition that came with Marvel Spider-Man Remastered. So that's how I played this game. So Marvel Spider-Man Remastered comes with all of the DLC content. So that's how I was able to play all that, including all the DLC and stuff. This took me about 27 hours and 45 minutes. And going into this, I knew I was going to love it, but I honestly expected not to do all of the extra side map bonus content, whatever you want to call it. I didn't expect to do it all, and honestly, I didn't do it all, to be fair, but I did do most of it. I skipped out on the DLC side content because I beat the game, and then I was like, I want to do the DLC, but the DLC kept throwing like new like collectible things on the map, and I was like, I don't know, man. I finished the game. I'm kind of done. I don't think I want to like get more collectibles after I just beat the game. I kind of wanted to move on. I wanted to beat it before the end of the year, all that stuff. So I was like, what? I'm not going to do these extra things because they're a lot like the main game side content. It's just more of the same. And I guess if I was playing this back in, was it 2018, I think, when it came out, or when there was a lull when I wasn't playing many games, but I play tons of games, so that never happens. If I didn't have games to play, it would probably be a good thing to do. But because I had two more Spider-Man games to play because I was playing them after the fact, it made the most sense to me to not do the side content. But I did do the side content in the main game, with the exception of two things. I didn't do all of the Taskmaster challenges. I did a few, didn't do them all, and then I didn't do all of the Screwball challenges. So those two, they're like timed challenges where you have to do like different things. Well, actually, for Taskmaster, they're basically all the same. You basically have to defuse bombs. Um, these aren't like spoilers because they're not important to the actual story. They're just side content. And then the Screwball challenges, those vary a little bit. She's like some like social media influencer, but she's like, I don't know, a criminal. And you got to do different tasks, and I don't know, it's a whole thing. I didn't really like those all too much, to be honest. But every other collectible in the game, there's like these backpacks you got to find around the city. Those are really fun. There's the landmarks you got to take pictures of. Those are fun. There's all the hideouts for different goons that you find throughout the game. Those are really fun. So yeah, I did basically everything in the game except for the screwball and the Taskmaster challenges. And I guess I should clarify as well. I didn't like get all of the crime tokens and stuff by doing like certain conditions in a battle. Like they'll give you a battle and it might be like you have to swing kick 10 enemies. Like I didn't do all those. I did some of them, but I didn't do all of them. If I got them the first time through, great. If I didn't, then I just didn't do it at all. Was my philosophy when playing Spider-Man. And yeah, Marvel Spider-Man, man, I love this game. I love the traversal, obviously the swinging. I mean, I don't honestly, there might not be a better like feeling game to move around in than Marvel Spider-Man. Like it's close. I don't know, like maybe like Mario 64, like moving around in Mario 64. But like at least like an open world thing, right? This is by far my favorite open world to get around because it's so small. I mean, I guess it just depends. I guess if you're looking for an explorative thing, it's not that at all. um, for exploration, I would turn to like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, that kind of stuff. But as far as like an open world enhancing a game rather than being the focal point of the game, I think Marvel Spider-Man does it perfectly, honestly. And it's a very small open world, or maybe it's not, but you move so fast because you're swinging around, it really feels quite small because you're up in the clouds, you know? So yeah, Marvel Spider-Man was great. I mean, the story is great. The story usually story doesn't really make much of a difference to me because I mean I'm a Nintendo guy, right? I don't always need a story. I mean, Mario 64 is my favorite game of all time. The story in that game is garbage. Like, it's not garbage, I guess. It's not great, honestly. It's not that well developed, right? And it doesn't matter. I don't care. The game's still my favorite game of all time, and I probably wouldn't love it anymore if it had a good story. I just don't care. And the same goes for like graphics, right? Mario 64, horrible graphics. I mean, I guess it looks better than some things, but it doesn't look great. But again, I don't care. You know, I'm more about the gameplay and specifically about the progression. How does the game change from the start to the finish? How does it increase in difficulty or introduce new mechanics? That kind of thing. And I think for those things, Mario 64 does it perfectly. And similarly, Spider-Man does those things well, and it also does have the story and it has the visuals. Of course, being who I am, I immediately went to the settings and I turned off the graphical mode and I put it on the performance mode so I could get 60 FPS. And again, I mean, I play Nintendo games. They're not always the smoothest. Usually they're pretty smooth because the Nintendo likes to polish games. But like as far as examples where it wasn't always smooth, like Tears of the Kingdom, right? There's some like when you take out the Ultra Hand, you kind of have some slowdown. It doesn't really bother me too much. It's pretty minor. And the biggest examples I could think of are probably Link's Awakening and Echoes of Wisdom. When you play those games, right, every time you like step out of a building, it kind of slows down a little bit. But again, it doesn't really break the game or anything. You're not like trying to immerse yourself in the world, anyways. It's not the end of the world. But if I do have the opportunity, then I'll happily bump the frame rate up and to sacrifice the graphics. And I mean, honestly, I do notice the difference between 30 and 60 FPS, but I really don't notice the difference nearly as much between like 1080p and like 4K, right? It doesn't. I mean, I guess I notice the difference, but it doesn't really bother me to play something that doesn't look so great, as long as it runs well and it plays well. Really, is the main thing. But I'm not going to dwell on Spider-Man too much because I do have more Spider-Man games to talk about. So we'll move on to December 31st. So we're still not in 2025 when I beat The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. So this, I'm very happy to say that I did beat Echoes of Wisdom in its launch year. I was not late to Echoes of Wisdom. I mean, I guess I was a little bit, right? I didn't get it when it came out. Was it September 24th or 26th? I don't know. Maybe it was the 25th. But it was in that area. I didn't pick it up then, simply because I was trying to buy a computer. I was saving up, and then when I finally got the computer, I was saving for a capture card. So when I finally got some money again, I bought Brothership instead because I wanted to play both games, but I wanted to, make videos. So I was like, you know what? I think Brothership would be better because it was more relevant, it was newer, right? So I got Brothership instead. And Brothership, I'm not talking about here today because I beat that last year on December 7th, I want to say. No, 15th, sorry. December 15th. So that's not part of the discussion for today. I'm sure I'll talk about Brothership in the future, though, because I do love Brothership. I know a lot of people were pretty negative on it, but I'm quite positive on it. But back to Echoes of Wisdom, I'm very positive on Echoes of Wisdom as well. And I think it's important to mention that you should probably take my opinions on Zelda games with a grain of salt because I have some hot takes and I also haven't played them all. For instance, I think Skyward Sword is like 1,000 times better than Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Skyward Sword is my favorite Zelda game by a long ways, and I know that's not like a popular thing. I know that's not a common thing, a good take, right? But it's my take, so take that. But anyways, but back to Echoes of Wisdom. Echoes of Wisdom was fantastic. I love Echoes of Wisdom. I know there were some things, as far as like the Zelda, playing as Zelda instead of Link. Some people were upset because it didn't really make much of a difference. Honestly, I was probably happy that it didn't really make much of a difference because I was a little concerned that it was gonna not really feel like the same game because you're playing as a different character who does completely different things, right? I mean, I guess if you gave Zelda a sword and put her in the Link outfit, then I don't know. I guess some people would say that's better, for like inclusion and stuff. I would say that's probably worse because like the one time you actually use Zelda as the main character, all you do is just make her Link. So like, what's the point, right? So I think I actually prefer this strategy. I guess not that I don't know if Nintendo was really thinking about that specifically. They were probably just more like oh, let's put Zelda in here. So I liked how they put Zelda in, and she had completely different things that she does. I mean, with her, the tri rod or whatever I think it's called, that was really fun. And I thought it was really nice having like the different blocks and having the different enemies to go fight for you. I thought it was a really well done mechanic. I guess if there's one like complaint that I might have about this mechanic, it's that there's not always a reason to use one enemy over the other. And I found that as I went through the game, and I've heard this from other people as well. I listened to their episode on this Nintendo Life. It's a podcast I listen to. It's a Nintendo podcast. Honestly, I probably framing this show quite a bit subconsciously around that show because I love that show so much. Go listen to them. But they were talking about how they like got one enemy. Like they would get to a point in the game where they would find a new enemy, and it would be the most powerful, and then they would just use that one. They wouldn't really ever need to use another one again. And I can agree with that for the most part. I mean, obviously there's some parts here and there where maybe you need an electric guy to power a switch, or you need a fire guy to melt a block of ice, or you need a ice guy to put out some fire, right? But generally, there's not much reason to use any enemy besides like for me it ended up being the like top level of the Moblin was the one I settled for. And I think a lot of people settled for the Dark Nut instead. I preferred the Moblin. He seemed to like I don't know if he was better or worse, but he seemed to work for me, so I didn't really care. I did sometimes use the bats, but I didn't really get into that as much. And I think the same goes for the blocks and stuff. Like when I placed down I for a while there I was just using beds because beds do the same height that the stools do, but like they're double wide. So there's no reason to use a stool over a bed for the most part. So I was just using beds. But then later on, I got the trampoline and I started using that as my first thing when I was stacking up because it was the easiest. And then when you get clouds, you start using clouds. So basically, you'll have like a few different items that you use most of the time until you unlock a new thing, and then you use that basically exclusively. And I know some people have problems with that, complaints with that. I don't really mind that idea too much. But yes, generally, I think this game was very well executed. I heard some people complaining about the bosses, like they're not all too interesting. I guess the bosses really aren't like the highlight of this game, but I didn't really mind them. Again, I didn't do all the like bonus content, but I did do like I guess a little bit. Like I did the extra dungeon you don't have to do. Um, and I do like that there is a little bit of freedom as far as where to go, but it's not completely open. Kind of like Breath of the Wild is basically completely open, right? And I didn't really like that necessarily. I like how it's like somewhat in between, right? Honestly, if the game was completely linear, that'd be fine by me. I don't mind things being linear, but I understand that there's a large crowd of people who want things to be open, and that's okay. They can have it. I think they can have it both ways, and I think that's what we have here with Echoes of Wisdom. I think, and Tears of the Kingdom does that a little bit as well. I haven't beaten Tears of the Kingdom, so don't take my opinions on Tears of the Kingdom at face value because I haven't beaten the game. And I also took like 7 years to beat Breath of the Wild because I kept like not liking it and then leaving and then coming back and leaving and just I don't know. My point is, Echoes of Wisdom is great, and I loved the world. I went to some of the areas before I was supposed to. Like I couldn't do anything there yet, and I was kind of just there. And I think it was kind of interesting because then I could just warp in later when I actually had to go there, and it wasn't a huge deal. I did find myself. This wasn't like a fault of the game. It was just me being dumb. Every time I'd go to a new area, and there would be one of those little like waypoints. I don't know what they're called actually. The like they look like a little cactus, and you can teleport to them using the tri rod. Every time there would be one of those. I would forget to like accept it or whatever to mark it on my map. So then I couldn't teleport. And like for some reason I just didn't have an eye for those. Like I would just be walking through the world and I would just completely miss it. Like I didn't even realize it's there. So by the end of the game I had to like look around for the teleporting points because I was like, where are these things? Surely there's got to be one around here. And it'd be like tucked away. And it wasn't really all that tucked away. I was just stupid. But that's not a fault of the game. That's just my insolence, I suppose. I'm thinking I probably shouldn't get too spoilery on Echoes of Wisdom because it's still fairly new, and I'm actually kind of thinking of making a whole YouTube video about it at some point. I should probably get on that because the game's losing relevance. Uh, but yeah, I was great. Echoes of Wisdom, fantastic game. I think I still prefer like Skyward Sword, but it's my favorite. But it's my favorite 2D game for sure. It's my favorite 2D game, and I'm like most of the way through Minish Cap, and I still prefer Echoes of Wisdom. Overall, like really, really solid game, and it's really cool that 2D Zelda is back, and it's cool that we got Zelda back so fast. I mean, who would have thought that there was a 2D Zelda game in the works this whole time? I mean, I guess some people did like leak it or rumor it, but I think most of those people were kind of just wishful thinking. You know, it wasn't like actually like I don't think there were actually that many people that believed that there was going to be another 2D Zelda game or even one on Switch at all, unless it was like a remake, like an original one, you know? And I know a lot of people like to point at A Link Between Worlds and like not count that one fully because oh it wasn't an original map. Honestly, I think that counts. I mean, even if they reuse a map, it's still the same game. I mean, it's still a new game, right? I don't think anybody looks at Tears of the Kingdom and is like, "Oh, that doesn't count as a new 3D Zelda game because it used the same map as Breath of the Wild." Like that's stupid, right? So nobody is making that argument for Tears of the Kingdom. I don't think that's a valid argument for Link Between Worlds. And in fairness, I haven't played it, so maybe it's a little bit more similar than Tears of the Kingdom is to Breath of the Wild. So maybe it is a bigger deal than I believe it is to be, but I don't know, man. Yeah, I think, I guess I can get into light spoilers. Not that the story is like particularly important. And maybe I don't really have that much to say, but yes, I will talk here for a few minutes, some like light spoilers on Echoes of Wisdom. So, okay, for one, the final boss being the eyeball. Is it Noel? Is that what his name is? I think it's Noel. So that was I don't know. The final boss it was all right. To be honest, it wasn't the best boss in the game. There and I think it's neat with Zelda. I think honestly, maybe my favorite part of the entire game is breaking out of the prison in the Farron region. I don't remember what exactly that town is called, but they're all obsessed with the cotton candy and they're like it's actually the spider webs or whatever, and they're all eating it. I think that was actually my favorite part of the game was breaking out of that prison. So that was a nice area. As far as the other areas in the game, I really liked the Zora area, where you had the River Zora and you had the like Ocean Zora, I suppose, the regular Zora. Um, I mean, I don't know if there's really a regular, but the ones we've seen more frequently in past Zelda games, like Ocarina of Time and stuff. Actually, I guess they were in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom as well. But anyways, that was nice where they had the music and stuff. I mean, honestly, it's not like some like heart wrenching like um I don't know, like crazy, like adult story, right? But it doesn't need to be, you know? It's just a lighthearted, like fun time, you know? But there's also a little bit of depth and there's a little bit of lesson to be had, I guess, from Zelda stories. And I think that's a good balance for Nintendo to strike, you know? So that's goes with what I was saying earlier about like the Spider-Man games. Like you don't necessarily need to have this like crazy story. It's nice sometimes, but it's not always 100% necessary, I guess, is what I'm been trying to get across. Other areas in Echoes of Wisdom, there was the Gerudo area. I went to the did I go to the Gerudo Desert first? I think I did. Yeah, because I think the first dungeons you can go to are the Gerudo and the Zora. I went to the Gerudo first. And the Gerudo one, that's where they have well, there's rifts for opening up the entire game. But that's where they have like I mean it's in the desert. I mean, I don't actually remember the driving story of the Gerudo one too much. I know the chief is like an imposter of the real chief or whatever, and you got to pull the real chief out of the like dark world or whatever. I don't know. The Gerudo area, I thought it was nice. It was interesting. You know, it wasn't like my favorite area in the whole game. Um, Another great area in the game was the Elden area when you go to the volcano and there's starts with a D. I can't remember his name, but there's the chief there. I really it would be nice if I was talking about these as I was playing the games, but this is the only episode where it's really gonna make where it's gonna matter that I haven't played these games super recently. But there's that chief there, and he's like new, and he's got to like learn to stop worrying so much about like the past teachings, and that he's a better chief when he's kind of coming up with his own ideas. I think it's kind of interesting. Then there's the Hebra. You go there's the Hebra Mountain, but then you go up even taller, I believe, than the Hebra Mountain. But anyways, you get up there, and then there's like the weird like Yeti guy. Seems like everybody on the internet loved the Yeti guy and his story. I don't know. I guess it was fine. It wasn't like my favorite of the areas, but it was interesting. I'm really glad I played this game, and I think it's really worth it for anybody. And I think Echoes of Wisdom is fantastic, and I'm really glad that we have a new 2D Zelda game. I mean, whether it was with Link, whether it was Zelda, what don't matter. I think it's a really good game, and I think we need more. I honestly I want Link back. Like I'm not. It's not like I cared. Like I wasn't playing Echoes of Wisdom. And I was like, oh, we need Link in this game. I was more like, this is cool, but I don't want it to be like the new norm. You know what I mean? I think it's nice when it's one time. I don't want Link to be replaced, right? So I don't think that's what's happening here. But I'm just making it clear that I don't want all the games to be Zelda because I think it would be interesting if we had another game like this. Again, like maybe we have a second, like a sequel to it. Um, but I think what would work nice is if there was maybe like two modes or something. Like there's like two little games. Like maybe they come out like the Oracle games did. I mean, maybe like one of them's a Zelda game, one of them's a Link game. I don't know. It'd be interesting. I'd probably want to do that. But if we get Zelda again, that's okay. But I think we probably don't want her as the next game if there's not another Link game. I could also see a world where maybe they do like 3Ds are Link and 2Ds are Zelda. But I think a lot of people probably won't take that well because then they're kind of like relegating Zelda only to the 2D games, and it's like maybe those are a little less important. But I don't know. I could see it maybe not mattering fully. I don't know. I'm a little mixed on it. So I do want Link back, but I liked this outing with Zelda. I thought it was interesting, and I was a little worried going in. I was like, this probably isn't gonna feel like Zelda, but it still did. It felt very much like Zelda. So I'm beyond thrilled with Echoes of Wisdom, and I'm glad I got to play it technically in its launch year. I beat it on the last day of 2024. So that was it was a good experience. So I don't know if I mentioned. I'll go back and check, but I that beat that in 19.75 hours, 19 hours 45. All right, so the fourth game we're gonna talk about today, is that right? Fourth game, that I actually beat in 2025 this time. Don't worry, was Spider-Man Miles Morales. I almost said two. It's the second one, but it's not this it's not Spider-Man 2. It's Miles Morales. And Miles Morales is a much shorter game than the first game, the first the Peter game, the Marvel Spider-Man. And in a lot of ways, it's better. I think they've made some like improvements
to like the UI and to the, I guess, honestly, I think the story's more engaging in the first game. But like I said earlier, that doesn't really matter too much. Obviously, it looks prettier, but again, doesn't really matter too much to me. So really, the main thing here is that I think the side content, some of it is not as good. I think like the landmarks and the backpacks and the are like better in the first game than like the sound recordings and stuff are in the Miles game. However, they didn't have those stinkers like they did in the first game with the Taskmaster and the Screwball. So, maybe you could say that the average side content in the first game is worse, but there are like highlights that end up being better than the stuff in the Miles game. So I'm kind of mixed on it. If you're trying 100%, this game is a lot friendlier to that. But if you're just if you're just playing it to for the story, I think, or not even for the story, just for the gameplay and not necessarily 100%ing it, then I think the first game might be better. Um, but it was really interesting. I didn't really know. I watched a full Let's Play of the first Spider-Man game way back when I was very little when it came out. I guess I wasn't very little. I was kind of little. So very little implies I was like 6, but I wasn't. It wasn't quite that bad. Uh, um, but I started watching a Miles Let's Play when that came out. Of course, I was quite a bit older then. But I didn't watch all of that because I was like, oh, maybe I'll play these games one day. But I don't know. It took years after that for me to actually get a PS5 and get around to it and stuff. But my point is I didn't know about the story and the stuff of the second game going in, or of Miles, or of the second game going in, whereas I did for the first game. So now that there's like that many like crazy reveals or anything, I guess as a like should I spoil this? I don't know. Um, you know what? No, I'll do spoilers afterwards. Same with the first game, the swinging and all that stuff. It's almost identical. Like honestly, it's almost identical. I did really like something I was really happy about is that they didn't like remove too many of the abilities that you unlocked in the first game because it would have been kind of annoying. Oops, that was probably a weird spike. Sorry. It probably would have been kind of annoying if like you unlock all these things in the skill tree in the first game, and then in the second game they're just like, nope, goodbye, they're all gone. But no, they actually you get to keep some of them, not all of them. But I think the more important like movement-based things you get to keep. There was definitely at least at the beginning of the game, I felt like there was a heavier emphasis on doing the tricks in the air. Like you hold I think it's square. Hold on, I'm looking at the PS5. Yeah, it's square. You hold square. I'm a Nintendo guy. The Nintendo buttons are what I think of automatically. Uh, but anyways, you hold square and then you like do like tricks in the air depending on what direction you're holding, and that's honestly kind of a fun thing. I messed around a little bit with it later on when you get like the Venom jump. I mean, I guess it's not really that much later on, but you get the Venom jump. The Venom abilities are really good, but you get the Venom jump and then you're like in the air. And I tried jumping off. I think it was what did I jump off? Did I jump off the Empire State Building? I don't know. I found the tallest building. No, I jumped off the Avengers Tower. That's right. I jumped off the Avengers Tower because it was one of the taller buildings in the area I was in. And I jumped off and I dove and I started tricking right at the top and in the air. And I had filled out my venom gauge at this point. And I went all the way to the bottom doing these tricks. And then I venom jumped and I did a few more tricks and I venom jumped and I did a few more tricks and I venom jumped. I think a third time is the most you can get. And I did a few more tricks because I wanted to see like how much XP you could get all in one run. I don't remember what the results were, but I thought it was interesting. Another funny thing, this isn't really much of a spoiler, it's pretty unimportant, it's not like a story beat. But there's a cat you have to save early on in the game, and then I think you see the cat maybe one other time in the story, but then at the end of the game, as a side thing, you can like go and get a suit where the cat is like in Spider-Man's backpack, which is kind of funny. Um, of course, I didn't get it until I was like done with the game. I had basically done everything, so it's like there's no reason to. I put it on. I was like, oh, that's cool, but I didn't like. So I think if I loaded it back up, I would still be in that suit because I finished the game out on that note. So. And speaking of which, I 100%ed this game, unlike the first game, because like I said, there weren't any of those like stinker mini games like there were in the first Spider-Man game. And there also wasn't any DLC, so it wasn't like there was a whole lot of extra stuff to do. In fact, I finished the story, and then there was very little left to do because I had done most of it as I had went along. Um, so I got 100% on the map. It sums up in the corner. It says 100%, but I didn't get like a platinum trophy or anything. And I beat that. I don't think I said I beat that on January 4th in 12 hours and 15 minutes. So I went back from winter break or from Christmas break, and like I beat it 2 days into the school starting. So I played like all of these games I mentioned over that school break. The next game I beat is just on the same note is Spider-Man 2. I beat this on January 13th in about 24 hours total. I also 100%ed this game. And honestly, I think it's my favorite of the three Spider-Man games. I've looked around online, and it doesn't seem like everybody has that exact same opinion. But I do think it's my favorite one because I think the side content is the best. It's one of those things people have said that the story was maybe a little bit less compelling than at least in the first game, and I think that might be true. At the end of the closing of the story, like the last parts aren't necessarily like maybe quite as good. But like the first arc, we have Craven. I guess I'll spoil that. I mean, everybody knows Craven's in the game, right? When you have Craven at the start, that is a far more compelling a story than Venom later on in the game, I think. But I still think the Venom was cool. Um, and I'll do some spoilers for Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 is a much more recent game. If you don't want spoilers for Spider-Man 2, probably skip through here because I'm about to spoil Spider-Man 2. So I'll give you a few seconds. So since Spider-Man 2 is a recent story-based game, I don't want anybody getting too spoiled on that. So Spider-Man 2, I think my favorite, like the peak of Spider-Man 2, well maybe, was when you first get. Well, I'm not gonna. Okay, I guess when I say the peak like that, it's kind of negative. It feels like afterwards it went downhill. I wouldn't say that's necessarily true. I think the best moment in Spider-Man 2, we'll say, was probably when you got the symbiote suit as Peter for the first time because it's almost like what's a good comparison? It's like in Metroid. I just actually played my first Metroid for the first Metroid pretty recently, but it's like in Metroid where you get. I guess the screw attack's a good one where you get like, you get a lot more powerful. But maybe the better is like the victory lap, right? Right before like sometimes after right before the final boss where you have all of the things and you're running through and you can just like destroy enemies like they're nothing, right? You just throw and that's what it feels like every time you get the symbiote suit or you get to play as Peter in the symbiote suit in the game. And it's interesting because, you know, once you lose the suit, you almost like lose abilities and it feels kind of weird. It's like, oh, I don't really know if I like that. But you pretty quickly get them back when you get the like anti-venom suit, I think they call it. The white suit. I'm assuming it's an anti-venom suit because like in the comic books the white symbiote is the anti-venom. I don't know if they actually said that or not. Maybe it's a negative suit. I don't know, it doesn't matter. But it's from Mr. Negative, right? So, and I guess as a big spoiler here, Craven like dies like probably about 2/3 through the game. He's like, maybe actually maybe even a little bit more than that. He's killed by Venom, and it's a big like pivotal moment in the story because the beginning. Like as a brief like in the game, like you have like the Craven's goons and his vultures, like yeah, they're like vulture like bird people. Some of them are actually like drones. Others are people in wingsuits. And they like attacked New York or whatever. The Sandman. That's right. There's the Sandman at the start. That was a really fun boss as well. Then you get into the Craven people, and they're there for like most of the game. They're the main like antagonists, Craven and his gang. And I remember that there was the funny thing where you have to while you're hunting down Craven, you have to go to one of his men's like parties or something, and you have to like sneak in with a suit, and you're like one of the servers playing as Peter, and yeah, and you have to bring like a piece of meat to his like bodyguard, and you get up there and it's a tiger, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's hilarious. So I don't know, there were some funny things. The story, like I said earlier, the story doesn't really bother me too much, but I did think there were some really high moments. There were some moments that, I mean, I guess there were some somewhat like I want to say they're emotional, like I was crying, right? But there were some things that I'm like, wow, that has a little bit of impact, right? Um, but on top of that, there were just like some funny things, like the tiger thing, that really I thought were funny. Um, The funny things I thought were funny. Yeah, I know. I'm really good at describing my opinions on games, right? Uh, that's what I'm here for, right? I'll be here all night. Anyways, so yes, Spider-Man 2. What else can I say about it? Oh, there was I liked the going to Coney Island with Harry and MJ. That's a really good part in the story. And I like as well where you have Tombstone and like Tombstone's like he's all like reformed, I guess. Like he's no longer a bad guy. I don't think you even had to do the Tombstone stuff in the first game. I think the Tombstone stuff was optional entirely. I don't think you had to do any of it because you could do that as an optional boss fight. I did it, but anyways. So yes, I liked that a lot. I guess I really didn't like Black Cat's inclusion in Spider-Man 2 a whole lot. I don't think they really like. I thought she was very interesting in Spider-Man 1, and then she wasn't significant. She was significantly less interesting when she returned in Spider-Man 2. But it is what it is. Yeah, overall, Spider-Man 2, better game for sure. I think some of my favorite side pieces of content. I liked the spider bots. I remember at the end of the game there, I was kind of running around, like had like two spider bots left to find, and I was like, man, I cannot find these spider bots. And I had to like, I didn't have to look anything up, so it wasn't that. I just was like confused the whole time, trying to find like I was going around probably like half an hour. I was swinging around finding the last two spider bots, and they're in confined areas too. So that's another thing. They open up more of the map in this game, which is really cool because it's not like it got old, but there's no magic left after the first two games. You've seen the whole city, right? And I don't think that's necessarily a problem, but if you are someone who likes exploration based things, it's really cool that they opened up a whole new section. I think it's like Brooklyn, right? That they opened. I think they only opened like half of it or something. So maybe in the next game we'll get the rest of Brooklyn, and then after that we'll get some new section. I don't know, but it's really cool. Yes, as far as who I played as, I think I probably played a little bit more Peter than Miles, but I think it was probably like 60-40, right? Like I still played quite a bit of Miles. I definitely wanted to try them out both out. But I really liked using Peter later on in the game. I think at the beginning, Miles is probably the better character because like he has the Venom abilities and Peter doesn't have really anything going for him like that. But then later on in the game, Peter ends up being much better when he has the anti-venom abilities. So I guess it levels out a little bit. I think actually Peter is better by the end of the game. Um, so yeah, I think that was good. I will say I didn't. Well, I was mixed about the inclusion of Yuri Watanabe. I liked her in the first game. I really didn't like when she went all crazy in the DLC. And then I think that was in the DLC. I don't know. For the first game. And then in the second game, there she's like Wraith, I think is the name. The purple, like she's got the weird like scythe, almost like grappling hook kind of thing. I think it would be kind of interesting if we got a whole game with Wraith, but I would probably have problems with it because I didn't think Wraith was actually all that compelling a character, and I don't know, she seemed a little like she's definitely like an anti-hero, right? I think is really how you would describe Wraith. But I think my main problem with Yuri is her haircut. Oh my god, like what happened to her hair? Like that's horrible. Like anyway, I guess I can't be talking about bad haircuts. My hair doesn't look great. Um. Anyways, and then the other thing, another minor gripe is MJ looks not so great. MJ looked a lot better in the first game. I liked her character design a lot better in the first game than in like the third game. Spider-Man 2 was the third game. It's weird. Um, so that's probably about all I have to say on Spider-Man 2. Um, oh, you know what? Yeah. The next game in the series. I'm curious. Like, are we gonna get another standalone Miles game? Probably not. But it almost seems like they're trying to phase out OG Spidey. So maybe we have like a Spidey or a Miles Morales Spidey and then like somebody else. And I think Gwen would be the choice because of her popularity. But of course, they literally set up Cindy Moon as Silk in the was it like mid credits or post credits or whatever. So I could actually see possibly a Silk game. I don't know if it would be a standalone. I don't think they can go back to a standalone game after having a combined game. Like I don't think that would really work super well. Um, so I don't know. I guess maybe I'm just crazy. But they could. I don't know. They could do it. I would play it. I'd like it. Silk game would be fun. So, or they could do a Miles and a Silk game. I think what would be really cool is if we got all three, but I could see that might be a little bit of a mess. And then there's gonna come a point where it's like just too much, you know. It would also be cool though if they just kind of stepped away from this story and they like went off and did like a Spider-Man 2099 game, or they did a. I mean, they did. I guess they might have kind of set that up, right? Like they mentioned Miguel O'Hara, so it's not completely out of the realm of possibility that we could see a 2099 game or a noir game. I think would actually be even more interesting. Imagine a Insomniac Spider-Man noir game. That would be like amazing. I would love that so much. So I could see a few different things. I know right now Insomniac's working on Wolverine. I hope that that's actually still happening. I wonder. I don't know. After all that leaking, maybe it was canceled, but I doubt it. But if they made a noir game, that would be awesome. So, and I mean, I'm not. I think it's possible they're working on another Spider-Man game still. I guess maybe they even are making a Ratchet and Clank game for PS6. We'll see. Maybe they're working on a few different things. I don't know. I know it's hard for a team, like they're a large team, but they're not like they probably don't have multiple teams, right? Maybe they do. I don't know. They're very large, but most of those people are all working on the same game, I think, generally. So hard to say. Hard to say. But yes, Insomniac. After playing all three of these Spider-Man games, and after playing Sunset Overdrive last year, I played it. I think in August. Hold on, I actually have August 6th. I beat it. Yep. I loved Sunset Overdrive as well. I do think the Spider-Man games are better. Like of those four games, Sunset Overdrive is probably my least favorite, but Sunset Overdrive is still phenomenal. I think it was like number 6 on my list last year. So I guess that tells you how much I love the Spider-Man games, right? So they're great. They're great games, really. And the PS5 was worth it for those and for Astrobot, even that. But there's gonna be more stuff I'll get to play on there too. So it's gonna be great. Yeah, that's that. So the next game I beat so far this year was on January 19th. I beat Mario Kart Super Circuit. I did all the Grand Prix on all the CCs, so I did 150 as well. Because last year when I beat Super Mario Kart on September the 11th, I did not do all the CCs. I did all the Grand Prix on like 50 and 100, but I didn't do them on 150 because you got credits after just a 50 and 100. So that's when I stopped there because if it was 150 on Super Mario Kart, it's kind of tough. Um, but on Super Circuit, it's quite a bit more reasonable, and you actually get credits after each circuit. So I felt more inclined to have to do the 150cc. And I did it, and it was fine. It was great. So I was kind of going through some of the Mario Kart games and getting like the Grand Prix on all of them. So I did Super Mario Kart. Now I've done Super Circuit. So I'm going to do Mario Kart 64 probably pretty soon. I've played some 64 before, but I've never done all the Grand Prix. I don't have Double Dash. Double Dash is the only Mario Kart game I don't have. So I'm probably not going to go in order. I'm probably just going to skip that one and come back later. But then I'll probably do Wii, and I'll probably do DS, and then Wii, and then 7, and then 8 Deluxe. I was waiting on 8 because I didn't have the expansion pass for Switch Online, and I also didn't have the DLC by itself. So I couldn't do the booster course pass stuff, and I felt like it would be kind of weird to like do all the Grand Prix but not the booster pass ones. So now I can actually do that at some point for Mario Kart. Actually, I haven't played Mario Kart since before I got the booster course, or before I got the expansion pass. I don't really play much Mario Kart to be honest. It's not something like I like doing the Grand Prix, and I'm sure on Mario Kart 9 I'll do the Grand Prix and I'll be like okay, and then maybe honestly I might play some Mario Kart 9 if I end up getting it when it comes out. I might play some Mario Kart 9 just for fun, but I don't imagine I'll play Mario Kart 9 like much, because it's not something unless it ends up being like some like Forza Horizon like open world thing, then maybe I'll try it, but I don't imagine I'm gonna play much of the online for that. But anyway, back to Super Circuit. Super Circuit is pretty nice. In a lot of ways, it's like Super Mario Kart, but in some ways, I think it's actually a little bit more like Mario Kart 64. Like it kind of takes a little bit from both. It looks a lot more like Super Mario Kart, but then it plays a little bit more, I think, like Mario Kart 64 is my general opinion on it. Of course, I hadn't played it because I don't play a ton of handheld stuff, so I wasn't gonna buy it on Game Boy Advance. I may at some point, but I didn't. So I played it on Switch Online. And yeah, Super Circuit, it's pretty nice. I mean, it has nice courses. You know, it's not too hard a game. You know, I did start playing like F-Zero on Switch Online, but that just gets a little hard. You know, like it gets hard. So, but Super Circuit, pretty easy game. It's pretty fun. So, all right, that was all the stuff I beat in January. But on February the 1st, I beat a game. Oh, actually, I forgot. Sorry, I spent 3 hours on Super Circuit. I beat it on January 19th. So February 1st, I played Behind the Frame, The Finest Scenery. And this was a game that was free on Epic back, was it in December or was it early January? I don't know. I think it was actually early January. It was free on Epic. I've played a few games all the way through that were free on Epic. Like I played last year, Toem. I played Toem, and that was a fun game. Toem, I guess we can talk about Toem real quick. Toem's a fun like picture, like it's a puzzle game where you take pictures. Well, you don't just take pictures. You collect items and stuff too. But then you have to go find different people in each little area, and you get to areas by a train or like a bus. I think it's a bus actually. Um, and you have to take pictures for people that want different things. You have to get items for different things. You have to trade things around a little bit. It's a fun little thing. It's like I would say it's a puzzle game. Honestly, is what I would classify it as. Probably it's like a puzzle adventure game, and it's short. It's an indie thing. I think it's made by what Something I Made is. I think is what it's called. Is like a. It's such an indie dev name is what it is. But anyways, that was a free game on Epic, and I think in October maybe. No, I think it was in September. It was free. But anyways, I've been claiming a lot of free stuff on Epic. I just recently claimed Humankind by Sega, which is a lot like Civilization. I was checking it out a little bit, but I'm probably not going to play that much of it. And then I claimed like F1 Manager, which I'm probably never going to play. The other day, I claimed Beyond Blue, which I might actually try out. It's like a diving game. Um, and then I claimed like Undying the other day. I don't know. I've been claiming all sorts of stuff on Epic Games. If you have a PC, or you think you might get one at some point, I would totally recommend downloading Epic Games and you know getting the free stuff because there's like free stuff every week. One, sometimes even 2 games a week. There's free stuff on Steam periodically as well, and then there's free stuff on GOG every now and then. But like Epic Games is the main one. I think it's because they're trying so hard to get people to use their store instead of Steam, but like everybody knows that they can just get the free game on Epic and then use Steam for everything else. And it's almost a little sad for Epic, but they're trying so hard that they have to give away free games for people to use their store. Anyways, so back to Behind the Frame. It was a free game on Epic. I beat it in a single sitting. It's an hour and 15 minutes. It's very, very short. I mean, now it's like $15, which honestly, I wouldn't pay $15 for it. And I feel bad because this is the problem with me in indie games. I like some indie games, but like a lot of them are short. A lot of them are like some of them like aren't that great to be honest. You know what I mean? Like some of them are for sure. Like I played like Firewatch, right? Firewatch was awesome. Would I have paid $20 for it? Maybe. Right, but as far as most of the other stuff like Grease, I probably wouldn't pay $20 for Grease. It was alright for free on Game Pass, but it's not the kind of thing I would probably spend $20 on. But I don't know, maybe I'm just being harsh. Behind the Frame, it's like $15 normally. Maybe it's actually 13, sorry. I would not pay $13 for this. It's just too short is the problem. It's off right now. It's like $8 right now. Even that I wouldn't pay because it's just so short. You know, I'd pay like $5 maybe. But for free, it was great, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's this you're like a painter, I guess. It's a first-person puzzle game. Well, I say I guess you're obviously a painter. What am I talking about? You're a painter. You're this girl. It's actually got a nice like animation style. I was actually trying to find intro music to the show from Behind the Frame, but they don't have it on the place where I download video game music, so I would have to actually go download it through YouTube, and that just seemed like too much of a hassle. So I went with Mario Kart Super Circuit instead. But anyways, it's good. It's good soundtrack. You know, a lot of these indie games have really good soundtracks, have really good art styles. I think it's because they have to stand out. You know, to really to stand out, right? Um, so yeah, Behind the Frame. It's a fun game. It's by Silver Lining Studio, published by is it Akupara, something like that. There is another game from Silver Lining that's a lot like this one that I kind of wanted to play, but again, I don't want to like spend too much money on it. If it's like heavy sale, I'll probably buy it. But it was another like I think it's another painting thing, honestly. But it's another indie game where it's like a first person puzzle game. Maybe it's a detective thing. I don't know. Maybe I can look it up real quick. Silver Lining Studio. But yeah, as I'm looking this up, um, behind the frame, there's some good puzzles, and basically you have to like do a section of the game, and you have to do like your daily routine. You do different puzzles, and there's some stuff at the end that gets a little bit like weird. Like it's not like normal life, like not like paranormal, but it's a little strange. Um, oh, the star named EOS or EOS or whatever comes out later this year. And what was that? The star named EOS. EOS. I don't know. Oh, it's a photo. That's what it was. It was photos. So that I might. I'm thinking of playing that, but how much? I don't know how much it was gonna be. I don't know. But we still have months until that comes out anyway. So, but yeah, definitely check out Behind the Frame. Well, I don't know if you feel like paying money for indie games, but it's one of those things that might come on sale eventually. So I don't know. Okay, but yes, Behind the Frame, great game. You have to basically do like a section of puzzles on a day, and then once you do the section of puzzles, you find like some like painting or some like object that like usually opens up, and then inside there's a bottle of paint, or like a tube of paint, I guess. And then you get a new color of paint, and then you can go back to your main picture, which is on an easel by your window, and then you can fill in that section of the painting. And so like it's broken up into chapters based on what color of the painting you filled in. It's really well done, to be honest. I almost feel bad saying it's too expensive, but I don't know. I don't buy much digitally, especially. So yeah, behind the frame, there's really there's not a whole lot to say about it because again, it's really only an hour long. So yeah, I think that I'm probably gonna end it there. But yeah, it's a fun game. I would potentially think about checking out the next one at some point. Um, yeah, behind the frame. All right. The next game I beat this year, February 4th, I beat this one. This is actually the last game I'm going to talk about because the last two games that I played this year I beat today as of recording this. So actually yesterday when you're seeing this, and I'm going to talk about those next week. Um, at least one of them. I'll probably talk about them both. Yeah, why not, right? So Final Fantasy was the most recent. I played that in about 13 hours, and I played it on the Pixel Remaster on Steam. Final Fantasy is like shockingly amazing. I mean, considering it's from what was it, 1988, 87? Is that right? Yeah, I think so. 1987. For an NES RPG from 1987, this game is like amazing. Like this game has no right to be this good. But I guess it's one of those things where you have like really old games, and the best of the best from that time period are still really good today. But games that are like mediocre back then are like, not so great today. And then games that were bad back then are like even worse today, you know? So even something like Mario 64, like literally, I mean, I think it's still the best game ever made, but I think it's probably was better in 1996 than it is now. You know what I mean? Because it's more current. So, and that's not a jab at retro games, because like I said, I still think Mario 64 is the best game of all time. But I do think that games have to be even a little bit better to last, you know? And I think there's a lot of stuff that we love right now that we won't look upon as fondly. Like, I haven't really been around that long, but I'm sure there was stuff back like in the 90s, right? Like maybe like something like I don't know, like Duke Nukem, right? There was probably people that thought that Duke Nukem was going to be something that everybody loved, everybody remembered, everybody played for like forever, right? But I feel like Duke Nukem's fallen off because it maybe wasn't quite good enough then. Maybe it was pretty decent then, but it wasn't amazing then. And because of that, it's not talked about now. You know, I think it's one of those things. The Final Fantasy was so amazing then that it still ends up being pretty good. And of course, the Pixel Remaster helps. I was just thinking about it today. I was like, I can't imagine playing Final Fantasy without the modern save system. Because originally, I don't. Could you save in dungeons at all? I don't think so. I know you could save like in towns. There was like a specific building that you had to go in, and there was like a dragon, and you like pray in front of the dragon, and then you save. It's like, tell me your story, and then or maybe that's Breath of Fire, but I'm thinking Final Fantasy had something similar. And I just, but could you do that in the dungeons? I don't think so. Maybe if you could, it was like a specific save point or something. But like, even still, it would probably be much harder than like nowadays, where you can just save at any point on the map in a dungeon. It doesn't matter. You can save anywhere, and it makes it definitely a lot easier, a lot well, really just a lot easier. Oh, I guess a lot more streamlined in experience, right? I don't think like the average person. I don't think I would even go to Final Fantasy on the NES on the cart. At least with my first time playing it, right? Whereas Pixel Remaster, yeah, there's no reason not to, right? You might as well just hop it in, it's fun. So yeah, I would definitely recommend playing through some of these old Final Fantasies. Of course, there's all six of them. Everybody agrees that six is the best one. A lot of people say five is the second best. But one doesn't deserve, or it doesn't get quite as much credit as it deserves, I think, because it's still an amazing game, even all these years later. Um, Now, I mean, honestly, the story's not great, right? It's pretty basic. It's like, oh, go get the four crystals. You get the fire crystal and the water crystal and the earth crystal, which makes no sense, and the probably the air crystal, right? It's like, oh, get the four crystals, which is kind of stupid, right? We can all agree it's pretty stupid. But that's not to say that there's not anything good about this game. I mean, I think the battling system it's basic, but it works well. If a lot of the modern RPGs or even ones of that era, they would like have well, usually not in the NES era, but like the Super Nintendo, PS1 era, they would have some like weird twist, right? And they'd be like, how can we make this different from Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, right? And they would have some like weird, wacky like mechanic in the turn-based battle system, and oftentimes that completely messes up the game. Like it just doesn't. It's just horrible now, right? But so that means um, without any weird things, you've got something that maybe doesn't have the best battle system, but it's got one that it's not wrong. It's not bad in any way, right? Like it's still good. So I don't know. I think that's really Final Fantasy. It's worth playing. If you're a fan of RPGs and you haven't played it, you're probably a little weird, but you should play it because it really is quite amazing. I'm glad I played it. And I'm most of the way through Final Fantasy 2. I'm kind of stuck on the last boss. I'm gonna have to go grind and stuff, and I'm just wasn't really feeling it. But I'll probably have that to talk about next week. It's one of those things. I'm not sure if I should save games, like maybe not quite talk about them right off, and maybe wait a little while just to make sure I don't run out of things to talk about. I don't know. I'm sure even if I haven't played anything, I can find stuff to yap about. I am quite the yapper. So Final Fantasy, it's really good. It's really good. Um, yeah, 13 hours I played that. February 4th, I completed that game. So I think honestly, there's not a whole lot left for us to talk about. How long is this episode? 41 plus what do we got? 37. So it's 78 hour 18. All right. Well, so it's not. This isn't gonna be a particularly long episode. Honestly, in the future, I'll probably try to get them closer to like an hour and a half. Is probably gonna be the benchmark normally, because I'm thinking I can do like two segments, right? And they'll be like 40 minutes each or so, and so it'll end up being like an hour and a half. That's probably what I'm gonna do. Two segments. Um, if at some point I get enough emails and stuff, maybe I'll do that as a segment. But I don't know. And again, if you want to email the show, email at or not at sorry, email not just Nintendo, all one word, NOTJUSTNINTENDO at gmail.com. You can email any questions, any comments, any I guess if you think Mario 64 is the worst game ever, then I guess you can email that as well, and I can tell you how wrong you are. You can send any of those things there. You can also comment them on YouTube. If you're listening on YouTube, I guess even if you're not, I guess you can go still comment on YouTube. I guess you could. And apparently you can comment on Spotify, which I did not realize was a thing you could do, but supposedly, according to Spotify for creators, you can do that. So I guess if you want to do that, I will check those. I don't know if there is any comment section on another platform. I probably won't check those because I don't I don't know that exists. I guess but Spotify you can do, and I'll check that one. So, that's the email. What else do we have to say? Oh, yes. Another thing. You can find the show. I made accounts for the show, for both X and for Blue Sky. And I'm gonna probably leave like updates like, oh, the show's late this week, or it's about this week, or it came out this week. Like I'll probably plug it and stuff, um, on both Blue Sky and on X. So on Blue Sky and on X, it's the same handle. It is at not just Nintendo. I got a pretty simple one. It's just like that. I mean, I don't know if it matters. I don't think it's case sensitive. But on X, it's capital not, capital just, capital Nintendo, and on Blue Sky it's all lowercase, but I don't think it matters. I think you'll find it either way. Or you can just look up not just Nintendo dash a video game podcast, and you'll probably find it that way as well, I would assume. And it has the same profile as uh, the show does. It's the same image of a 64 controller with Mario and Link. So you can find it on there. I haven't really posted anything on there yet because I just made them today. But I will, post when the show's coming out, any news about it and stuff. You can also find my personal account on Blue Sky. I'm not on X. Maybe I'll come back to X. I don't know. But I'm on Blue Sky, and my at on Blue Sky is at Ginger Ninja dash YT. GINJANINJA dash YT. And it's the username is the Ginger Ninja with a space, all capital. Both words are capital, not the whole. What am I talking about? Anyways, I'm just yapping at this point. You know what? I'll even put a link to my YouTube Discord server in the description, because you can talk in there. I'm assuming a lot of the community for the podcast and for the YouTube channel are going to be overlapping. So if you want to go check out the YouTube Discord server, it is in the description of this here podcast episode. All right, well, I think with that all done, I think we can roll the closing music, right? So I will see you all next week on Wednesday, like 4 or 5 area. It's gonna come out Eastern time. I don't have like a specific day that I'm not like scheduling it like 4 p.m. on the dot. I just put it out in that area. Um, Maybe I should do that, but I don't. So, anyways, it's been George. It's been good talking. Next week I'll have more current games I've played, and I'll probably have some new stuff, and hopefully some emails. Right? You guys are gonna leave emails, right? 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 So I'm sorry if this was a little bit like maybe not the best episode of a podcast you've ever watched. Maybe I was a little uh, not the best, but I am just starting. This is my first episode, so it feels like we've been doing this for a month already, but it's only been like 2 days. So here's to 100 years of this, right? Imagine we actually get there. That'd be crazy. Imagine we like invent immortality. I should just stop yapping. What am I talking about? All right. Goodbye, everybody.